Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kassandra and today we're doing another edition of Coffee Chats where I get to sit down with you and talk to you guys about more personal subject matters and things that, really matter to me and also matter to you guys. So a while back, I had a message from someone who was asking me, how to cope with anxiety. And I had done like a poll in my Facebook group. The link to that is in the description box, by the way. Asking, what kind of topics do you guys want me to talk about? And this was one that was like the most heavily requested. And it's also the one that I'm the most scared to talk about because it's something that I super personally relate to as someone who very much has struggled with anxiety, still struggles with it from time to time. These are all tips that I really don't want you to think that I'm telling you what you need to do. This video is really a way for me to remind myself of the things I know I need to do in order to alleviate feelings of anxiety when I get in those anxiety spirals and in those ruts, sometimes it just happens and it feels like you can't get out of them. And it's so overwhelming. I'm very much not an expert, or I'm not someone who's got it all figured out, but these are things that time and time again have made just the biggest difference in my mental health overall. And I did do a video a while back, my 10 self-care practices, and a lot of those were very much about mental and emotional well-being. So I would recommend watching that video. I go in depth about a lot of topics like that that you might find helpful, but let's just get into coping with anxiety, things that I've learned. And I do have a paper here. So if you see me looking down, it's just because I wanted this video to be good. So I wrote down what I wanted to talk about. So I think before I go into concrete steps and pieces of advice, what helped me the most in coping and dealing with patterns of anxiety was to understand that anxiety was not really the feeling, but was the symptom of a feeling. So let me explain kind of what I mean by that. I used to, let's say, for example, Anthony would tell me or ask me, what's wrong? And I'd say, oh, I'm just having a lot of anxiety right now. I'm just feeling really bad. So I made it so that anxiety was the symptom I was trying to alleviate. So, okay, how do I stop feeling anxious, right? How do I stop feeling anxiety? And through therapy and a lot of inner work, I was able to understand that it's not actually anxiety that's the problem. The problem is all of the unacknowledged feelings that I have pushed back and repressed that are now causing me to feel anxiety. So anxiety is the symptom that comes from all of these things that I'm pretending aren't the case. So once I started to really validate my own feelings and to really take the time on a very regular daily basis to check in with myself and see how I really felt, it completely lessened the amount of anxiety that came up in my life. So for example, I would, go through the days and feeling regular amounts of stress in my day-to-day life, right? So, deadlines weren't met, or I was having little conflicts with other people that I'm working with or other partners. And I'm a very positive-minded person and very productive. So instead of letting myself feel the discomfort and feel the issues and really get into the anger that I was feeling towards other people, the resentment, the sadness, the guilt, the judgment, all of that, I would just kind of pretend that everything was okay, move on to the next thing, and just keep on trucking because I don't want to be a complainer. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be perceived as someone who's difficult or perceived as someone who's too emotional or someone who's too, difficult to work with. So I would just focus on the next thing, keep moving ahead. And day by day, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, it's okay to have a few days where there are these little stressors that happen, but if you go a few weeks with those, all of a sudden I'm having like a huge anxiety flare up and I'm having a hard time doing like very normal, simple things, right? So I would then go and say, oh, I don't know why I'm feeling so much anxiety. What's wrong with me? I just need to do whatever I can to alleviate the anxiety and get back to being productive and positive and doing all these things. And it's like, that actually doesn't solve anything. So I could do things that help with anxiety. Like I could go to therapy, I could take a shower, I could go outside, I could move my body. But at the end of the day, what I really need to do is to validate and acknowledge all of these other layers of emotions and feelings and thoughts that I have completely suppressed. So for me, coping with anxiety is a daily practice. You don't just cope with anxiety when it flares up. You cope with it when things are going well. You know, when you're feeling pretty good and things are like fairly stable, this is when you need to do the work every day to say, how am I feeling? You know, what emotions am I ignoring? What are the signs and the triggers that I'm also ignoring that I need to pay more attention to? So that was huge. And more than anything else, that's what I need to do on a daily basis. That helps me cope with anxiety because it prevents more flare-ups from occurring down the road. Hopefully that makes sense. Another thing too that's really helpful whenever you're in the process of like validating your feelings, and really understanding, okay, like I'm going through an anxiety flare up. It's probably because of like, you know, these 5 situations in my life that I'm not really dealing with. One thing to be careful with is don't get too caught up in the thoughts or storylines around those. Just go straight to the feeling. Go straight to the feeling, acknowledge it, validate it, say, okay, I feel sad because X person, I heard them say a comment about me and I didn't speak up in the time. So now I'm internalizing it and going through with it. So what can happen when you are caught in an anxiety spiral is that it's hard to validate the feeling instead of just validating and saying, yeah, you know, the inner child in me feels hurt, feels wounded. I see it, I validate it, and I'm now able to let it go. Instead, what you're going to do is like go over that situation over and over and again, like a broken record that you just play in your head over and over. Like, listen, if you have anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you can be a broken record and you just go through that tape time and time again. Don't get stuck in the storyline of recounting what happened. Just go straight to the feeling, validate it, and then let it go from there. That's really helpful. For me anyway. Okay, now moving on to some more concrete steps, like when you're actually like right in the middle of your anxiety spiral and you're feeling really bad. These are the things that I either have to make myself do or make myself not do that have helped me. So the number one thing is resist isolating yourself. I know I'm very much prone to that. When I feel anxious and overwhelmed, I feel like I can't lean on other people, or I don't want to go out. I don't want to talk to other people. I just want to isolate myself because everything feels so overwhelming. But I know now from experience firsthand that that just makes things way worse. So if possible, resist isolating yourself. That doesn't mean, you know, say yes to every single social engagement and talk to a million people. Like, you can still be selective with the people you lean on and the people you turn to, but isolating yourself doesn't necessarily make everything better. You can take little bits throughout your day where you take quiet time for yourself to pause, to reflect, maybe to journal, to meditate, to do yoga. But don't go days or weeks on end, never leaving your house, never interacting with other people. I'm telling you, you are just going to sink even lower. So resist isolating yourself. And again, please keep in mind, this is just my personal advice. Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I'm not you, you know, different things might work for you, but this is what works for me. So that's why I'm sharing it. So other things that are really helpful for me personally is to get out of my head and into my physical body. So one thing, again, like when it comes to validating my feelings, is that I get stuck in like the storylines and the themes of what happened and the thoughts associated with them. And like, that's not helpful for me at the time. I don't need to analyze or deconstruct anymore. I need to feel and to really be present and embodied. So however you need to do that, some things that really help get me in my body is to go outside and move. So moving, whether that's going for a walk, doing some yoga, going to the gym, getting a massage, whatever it is, get back in your physical body, and if possible, go outside. It helps a lot. At least for me, it makes a huge difference. So moving and then getting in your body, processing in different ways. So for some people, the processing happens when they journal. So taking pen to paper, that's awesome. And like really like stream of consciousness journaling is great. Just like a word dump, when you can get all of those thoughts that are kind of all mixed up and jumbled in your head, you can just get them out on paper. Or get them out speaking to someone. But like, again, focus on the feelings, not so much on the stories that you get caught up, right? And sometimes meditation can be a really great way to be embodied. Going to dance class, just anything like that can be really helpful. Another thing that I would recommend is to get really familiar with your triggers. Start to be really familiar when anxiety starts to creep up on you. So I found for myself, there are like a few telltale signs that, like I can't tell that I'm heading towards an anxiety, or like I don't feel like I'm experiencing anxiety yet, but I know myself well enough to know that it's leading towards that point, you know? So if I find that I have a hard time concentrating, if I have a hard time falling asleep at night, those are usually like really big red flags for me to say like, okay, something's going on. I need to go in and check in to see what are the feelings that I'm not validating or acknowledging. And if I'm able to like really pay attention to them, usually I'm able to like ward off like a really bad anxiety spiral. So really know your triggers, and also be careful not to let those triggers or your anxiety in general become a crutch or a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So sometimes we'll avoid certain things because we don't want it to cause some kind of anxiety, but then we end up isolating ourselves, or we end up kind of making it worse because we make our world so much smaller, right? So you want to know your triggers, but you also don't want to isolate yourself, or don't want to let your anxiety, and you know, this probably applies to depression and other things as well, but like don't let it become a crutch or a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just have some awareness around what are the things you start to do when you notice that your mental health is like suffering a little bit or just needs a little bit of assistance. So we all have, I'm sure, different triggers. Another one for me that I've noticed that I do when I get the impulse to start new projects, that I know for sure I'm starting to feel overwhelmed and it's leading towards anxiety. When I feel like I need to throw everything away and start brand new, big, crazy projects, it's almost like mania. Like I just get on this like frenzy where I want to tear everything down and start everything new. That's a huge red flag to me that I need to pull way back and really check in to see what's actually going on here, because you know, I have a pretty detailed plan of what I want to do for the year. So why would I suddenly want to do brand new things? It doesn't mean that I don't allow myself to be spontaneous. It just means that I know myself well enough to have a bit of a critical eye and to notice like when something is feeling just a little bit out of the ordinary and a little bit too, like it's no longer spontaneous, it's chaotic. So chaos is a big trigger for me. So for me, routine helps a lot. If I can get up and go to bed around the same time, I find that I'm able to cope with daily stresses a lot better. And if I'm able to cope with daily stress, then it doesn't accumulate and it doesn't end up kind of being overwhelm and anxiety. So that helps. Another big tip, get professional help. Please, guys, like go to therapy. Therapy is so amazing. I wish I had started therapy in my teenage years. I feel like it would have helped me so much, but I started therapy like maybe a year and a half or so ago. I don't go all that often, like maybe every like 6 weeks or something, but it's just the best thing in the entire world. Highly recommend it. Get professional help if you can. It's a wonderful way to, you know, like if you have a hard time identifying your patterns and your triggers, that's what the therapist is there for, because they're really going to be able to spot those for you and to give you some coping mechanisms when you're really like struggling and really having a hard time. They can help you with all of that. So the last little pieces of advice I'm going to leave you with is to really work on showing yourself compassion. Inner child work can be really powerful here, but showing yourself compassion, because you're probably not going to fix everything right away. And I am, or was, I don't know, I'm working on it, but I used to be extremely hard on myself. I felt like if I work on something once, then it should be fixed and cured and it should never show up again. But that's just not the way it is. Like, I'll probably always have to be mindful of anxiety creeping back up into my life. It's not something that I work on once and never have to work on again. It's a constant daily practice, and it definitely gets better and better over time. I definitely don't struggle with anxiety now the way I did like 3 or 4 years ago. Like, now it's very, very well managed and under control. And, you know, for the most part, like, I'm doing great, but I still have to be very vigilant, and I have to keep up with my daily self-care practices in order to maintain and manage that. But I also do have to show a lot of compassion for myself, because I will sometimes be very critical and very judgmental of myself. So if that's something you struggle with as well, like, really work on showing yourself a lot of love, a lot of compassion, because you probably are going to stumble and fall along the way. And the last thing I'll say is to embrace a growth mindset. So just be open to the fact, you know, right now it might feel like alleviating anxiety or like getting over anxiety or coping with it is like this insurmountable task, like this huge mountain that you'll never be able to climb. So if it feels like you'll never be able to cope with your anxiety, can you at least open yourself up to the possibility that one day you'll be able to do it, you know? So it's like baby steps of a growth mindset of knowing that maybe today I can't, but maybe tomorrow I can, you know, and knowing that every day you're just going to make a tiny little bit of work and a little bit of stride in your efforts to go into a place where it does become a little bit more manageable. So be open to the possibility of feeling better at some point. It might not be right away. Give yourself compassion. It's not going to happen overnight, but one day maybe you are going to be able to feel better overall. So listen, those are the things that I personally do to help me cope with anxiety. These are the, you know, tricks and techniques and tools that I have in my little toolbox that I use on a very regular basis, and the things that have helped me the most. But truthfully, for me, it has all come down to validating my emotions on a day-to-day basis, not just when my emotions feel completely crazy and out of control, but just like as they're coming up. It's super hard for me, but I'm really working on it. So validating my emotions and therapy, like those are the two things that have really helped me get to a place where anxiety isn't really a big deal anymore. You know, it's not, it's still a part of my life, and sometimes it flares up, but it doesn't last as long when it does flare up, and it feels much more manageable. And the flare-ups have, like, they're spread apart, you know, so it's not as often. So it's just, honestly, it's just better overall for my mental health. So I would love to hear from you guys. I know, you know, I think anxiety and depression, things like that can be really stigmatized, but I don't think I can think of a single person in the entire world who doesn't have anxiety from time to time. Like, you must be a saint if you don't have anxiety. So I don't know why it should be stigmatized. I think these are things that probably everyone in the world wrestles with from time to time. So I would love to hear from you. You know, what do you do? What has helped you with your anxiety? Is there anything of this that you find helpful that maybe you'll apply to your own life and to your own self-care practices? Just let me know and let's talk about it, because I'm sure I could learn from you guys as well. Thank you so very much for watching. If there's anything you would like me to talk about in my little coffee chat videos, leave me a request down below in the comments, and maybe I'll do it for a future video. Please do subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and I will chat with you soon.